Is it good that we have a lot of snow in New England at the moment?
It is not good that we have a lot of snow in New England at the moment. I'm pretty much born and raised in New England, and
Yeah.
because the last winters have been so temperate,
Right.
I am just not prepared for this winter. This winter is a true New England winter where it's been 19 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Fahrenheit, lots of snow, lots of ice, lots of sleet, and I am just not used to it. I'm used to climate change winters, where they have been really, really mild. But this is good because it'll kill all of the ticks and mosquitoes for the summer. So
How
silver
about
lining.
how about magic?
Magic.
Magic in terms of snow.
That's a really good one. It's a really interesting question to ask. And because we are blessed here in New England to really experience the seasons, so you really do get that sense of the turning of the wheel
Well,
and the energy shifts that are there. It's a I don't know, how much should I reveal? It's been an interesting turn of the wheel, I would say, from the autumn equinox onward, where I think the darkness has crept in a lot more this year than in years prior. But in darkness, one can plant seeds, and with all of these snow beds, packed snow, we know that in spring we'll get a much better yield in terms of our flowers and our plants. So therefore, we could certainly use that to our advantage.
well, I was thinking about magic in terms of snow. I knew a witch once that uh, he would actually, so he would know when the snow was coming,
Yes,
and
intuitively.
yeah, well, he knew that it was announced.
Oh,
So
okay. All right. I'm like, did his bones start to creak?
he knows before the man in the
The meteorologist.
meteorologist.
Yeah.
So no, he knew. And what he would do is that um he wouldn't do anything for the entire time from the time that he would know that the snow was going to fall. So whatever that was, right, 5 minutes before or 24 hours before, it doesn't matter. Um, he would immediately go into directive will, in state of directive will. So he wouldn't eat. He wouldn't do anything. The only thing that he would do would be drinking water for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And directive will has a method to it, of course, so that when whatever he was directing would form and take shape in the water that was still in the clouds to come down, and that would crystallize his will, and then it would come and fall down to the earth. So this is a very interesting and effective way of weather magic. There's some secrets here that he made me swear not to say, mainly how to get your will up there. Um, but it's a very good way of manifesting some stuff.
Well, I should have been doing this all along.
Yes.
I'm sure I will have another opportunity very soon. I'm sure. No,
So,
that is
but
a re-
to be fair, he lived alone and he didn't really have anyone or any distractions. So it was easier, I think, when you have like a family, you're going to say, I'm gonna, I'm gonna, I'm gonna lock myself in this room and do not knock, do not come in. I don't want to eat. I don't want to drink. People
exactly.
say, well, let's just call the doctor.
No.
But these are the things that people don't understand that really magical people would do, which is they just go. The dedication that this has in terms of a magical act is absolute, and nothing else matters but that.
Yeah.
So it's really very interesting that that is something that he was doing, and he does a lot of things like this. So um, it's one of those witches that just navigates the the tides of life, with magic, because he sees magic in everything. Um, he told me how to do this, and it's just very, very interesting. It's an absolute, and it does work. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that it does work. So, talking about these things, when people say about things and talking about magic and all of that, for me, this is magic. This is true magic. When there is manifestation coming through, directed from true concentrated will into this thing, and working with water, because this is working with water in two stages of physical
Or
stages of water,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Water based.
and it's just incredibly interesting, and it does what it has to do. But talking about this and magic, I was in WitchCon.
Very nice. How was
And
that
it
experience?
was it was very good. I talked about the history of the Alexandrian tradition, and of course, and the Alexandrian tradition itself. I had a very good question in the chat room that I'm going to ask you, which is very interesting. So the question was, I was talking about obviously the Alexandrian tradition, and of course, the Alexandrian tradition is something that it's done in a group setting. So it's in a coven setting, and the Book of Shadows is very clear about this, and all of the things that we do it in a group. But then again, in the end, Levi had this wonderful question, which I'm going to ask you. So the question is, could you talk a little about how you see the relationship between working in a coven and then the work as an individual working alone?
That's an interesting question. Where I think most of us, not all, but I think most of us started with a solitary practice, where you were working from books, you were working intuitively. It's really kind of, DIY religion. Until then, asking for initiation, being initiated into Alexandrian, right, for this example. And then finally working with a group and experiencing that group dynamic. But more than that, then copying the Book of Shadows, learning from the Book of Shadows, learning the magic of a witch, which then, no doubt, at least I can only speak for myself and my own experience, has informed my own personal practice.
Yeah.
And I would say, too, that oftentimes a witch will find themselves alone. An initiate will find themselves alone, whether they have moved to another part of the country or moved out of country, have moved away from their coven. And then how do you maintain that, right? How do you maintain that practice? I don't think you should let it go fallow just because you're not with another initiate. I think it should be maintained. And there's adjustments also that you can make. But and since craft is such an experiential, that's the thing, such an experiential practice, an experiential religion, there are going to be experiences that you can only get in that coven setting with other witches.
Yeah.
Then I would argue again that experience, that memory, that knowledge that you then attain through that experience can, to a degree, translate into your practice. My solitary practice outside of coven work is very, very different than it was before being an initiate. Does that make sense? So in the sense of my craft, my Alexandrian training has changed the way that I practice when practicing alone. And I would also say, I think it's good to have a practice also that's outside of coven work. So this is going to be the cloud with the rain forming into the manifested crystalline snow to actually change
I
Hello.
can tell you what I answered. I was talking about the Alexandrian tradition and the training and all of that. And I think that we are very privileged to have an Alexandrian training. And the reason why I say this, it's because it makes us equipped with tools and techniques that will make our solitary work possible and even higher in terms of level of attainment, of magical attainment. Because the training in the Alexandrian tradition does make you evolve your practice, your consciousness, all of those things that I'm talking about, maybe things like hermetics and practical work in coven, empty chalices, all of that. It does equip the initiate with tools to be a good witch, meaning a proficient witch.
Yes.
Which is, of course, reflective in any practices that you would do alone. So I think, that because we are Alexandrians in a group, we are actually, I think, better witches when we're alone.
Oh, and this kind of ties back to what you were thinking about in terms of like, you are priesthood in a circle, but you are not a priest outside of circle.
That's right. Yes. So if you are, and of course, if you're alone, you're inside of a circle, you can cast a circle, that's fine.
Absolutely.
The office of the circle, as you're being a priest, is of the Alexandrian tradition. It is a group thing, but you're still a witch. This is a different thing. Still a witch.
Yeah.
And you can practice alone and be, a witch. It's fine. What I'm saying is that the practice of the Alexandrian tradition is it will equip, and the training more than anything, the training will equip the witch to be better, more effective in their solitary practices because of the Alexandrian training.
Yeah, because you know more, you understand more.
Yes, and you're better. You detain
better.
tools, in terms of magic and in terms of how the processes of magic work and how the techniques work, etc., that you wouldn't have if you wouldn't have been trained in the Alexandrian tradition.
And do you think do you think initiation does not bestow upon you any magical gifts or powers or anything like that, right? So therefore, it's not like all of a sudden, knowledge comes entering your head because you've just been initiated. But would you argue that certain things are unlocked too, that leads to this further development?
To think that the initiation is completely deprived of any magical power or any modification or attributes to the initiate would be ingenuous of us to think.
Yeah.
I think that it does. Of course, it doesn't give you any powers, anything.
No, you don't. I'm meaning like you don't become all of a sudden all knowledge.
No, but it does. It does. Gives you the opportunity to open up yourself and your spirit to the knowledge and to the experience and to the magic and to the contact and to the that which is magic and that which is sacred and that which is most essential in a magical operation. If you're not open to it, I mean, it's supposed to open you to those things. I think it was Len Roberts that said it was very interesting what he said in his lecture on WitchCon. He said, with this, it always comes opposition. With every single big act of magic, meaning, or, a ceremony like initiation, it does come opposition. And it's very interesting that he said that, because I always say this to people when they ask initiation. I said, are you sure?
Exactly. Are you sure about it?
Because there's always opposition. And I've seen this happening over and over and over and over again with people and in their own way. I mean, it's different for everyone, of course. But I've seen this happening, opposition actually to their own lives. I mean, there are people who divorce their spouses. There are people who move. There are people who lose their jobs to find a new one. I mean, it's Not always bad. I think that it's not always bad, but there's a big change that it's going to happen, because I think that that is characteristic of any magical act. So if you do a magical act, there will be opposition. There will be it's natural that this happens. It's absolutely natural. So in any initiation that you take, either second and third or first degree, there will always be a little bit of opposition.
Yeah, and it's an ordeal, and I mean, I think we refer to it as an ordeal.
Right.
And one must understand too that this happens in mundane life as well. If
Right.
even pursuing a higher degree in terms of education, your life changes.
It does.
Because it is an ordeal that you go through. And then if you pursue like even a higher degree, or master's or a PhD, I've certainly seen in my own experience during that process, people get divorced, people split up, all these things happen because you are fundamentally on a certain level changing yourself.
Yes.
And I would say it's even more profound in initiation when you're changing yourself on that magical level. And I agree, right? Magic is all about tension. And it's all about opposition, right? We would even call this polarity, right? Working with polarity.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's very important to think, because, when people say, oh, I want to be part of this. Well, do you really?
Yeah. Do you really?
Because
you're asking for a lot.
Yeah. And not only that, it's you do need to have vocation. Otherwise, this will be a disaster.
Yeah.
And what maintains you in the path is actually vocation and the love for the gods and all of that. Because, most of the people just say, oh, please, I just don't want this. I don't, once they're already in, and that's a very big problem, right? So once they're already in, they're like, God, no, if it went through, all of these things.
Too
And
much.
please, I don't need this. I don't need anyone to tell me, or I don't need this or that. But the fact is that it's really important for people to understand that this is not an easy path. You need to work on it, which is to say, to work on yourself, because basically you are the instrument of magic. You are the one who actually will have to do the magic, and will have to be in the circle, and will have to do the tasks and go through the experience. So basically, it's you. And I think there's some talks about the flesh is not really very important, but I think it is, because this is our body is sacred as
Absolutely.
well as our spirit.
Yeah. We are a carnal religion, right? We are of flesh, right? Not spirit.
And it's very important for us to understand this. So I think it's very important to understand that there is opposition in every single stage, that you need to overcome the opposition, and it is of you, that ordeal, to overcome the ordeal. So go through the ordeal and then overcome the opposition. It is important that this happens, because otherwise there is no growth.
Yeah.
There is no evolving. There is nothing like that. So I think that movement is what really pushes forward.
You only grow through discomfort. Truly.
Yes. I think that not always, and this is not a rule, not always people who go through ordeals and then they actually push forward and overcome adversity.
Yeah, no.
That doesn't mean that they are actually evolving, or that they are actually going through in the right way.
Yeah.
There is a necessity of almost like a generosity of spirit that has to be present in order for you to be touched by this experience and become something else in order to overcome this. So you need to be in a good opened mind and spirit, so that you can actually take this as a evolving lesson or a lesson. Not everybody that are overcome these things are specifically opened. So if you're not open, you're just resistant.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do anything. I mean, you're still here, but you're still, not really evolving. So overcoming can be done in two ways. And this is, I'm referring to the ordeal and the resistance and the opposition, is one is an open spirit, which is, somebody that it's actually very conscious about what this brings and surrenders. There is a surrender to the experience and to the lesson. And that is very good, because then that will open the potential of learning, which is very nice. And that's what we want. And there is the endurance.
Yeah.
The endurance is not really doing anything. You're just holding on. There's no opening. There is nothing. And there are some cases of this that I know of personally. And so not always the person that it's hanging in there or looking that, they're, they went through all of this. And they might not have been open. So they're still, solid as a rock, but there's no evolving.
Yeah, and then not transformed by the experience. And I love that. It's interesting that you did use the term like surrender. You have to surrender to it.
Yeah.
But then right at the same time push forward as well. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like that delicate balance of where you're not, like, when we say surrender, it doesn't mean you're just like throwing up your hands and you're like, I give up. Like that.
This is the thing. When you're caught in a very rapid river in a net, if you struggle trying to get free, you will get more caught in it.
Yeah.
So when you realize where you are with consciousness, how you are, your condition, you're in a perilous, very, very dangerous situation that could be lead you to death. If you calm yourself down and surrender to the current instead of going against it,
constantly
then
fighting.
Understand the net and where your foot are. So basically it's consciousness of body, where you are. Then you can untie yourself. This is what I talk about. When I talk about surrender, this is what it is.
Yeah. Do you, does faith have any role in craft?
I think faith is a blind belief.
Uh-huh.
And I think that we don't do that. We don't have faith.
Yeah.
We do believe. And we have, the belief comes from not nothing, but from the evidence of manifestation. And for me, that of the gods. And for me, that is real. Yeah. So faith is not really, faith is like, I will give the benefit of the doubt to that which is invisible.
Yeah.
So when you believe because you have seen it, you have experienced, you have, faith isn't that. Faith doesn't imply experience and certainty in terms of, what you do believe. So that's basically what it is. So you have touched it, and faith you haven't.
Yeah. I agree. We sort of like replace faith with belief and then knowing.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
Because you hear people, keep the faith, and faith is also like tied up with like vocation, but in a different way. And I'm sure like initiates on their path have moments of doubt, but we don't think about it in terms of, we'll keep the faith. No, it's belief and then practice.
Belief.
Right?
And
then the knowing comes from that.
People have come to me and have said, I don't know if I I'm in a really tough place. I really don't know if I want to go forward with this because, nothing is working. And I think that the best thing to do here as a person that it's hearing it, and, it's to listen to the person and what is really going on. Because once we are, in terms of like, crisis of faith.
Dark night of the soul.
Night of the soul, which I think that is a horrible way of putting it. But anyway, so these doubts that you get, it's because you feel that there's nothing that is actually working.
Yeah.
That what you believe, now it's not responding. It's almost like a ghosting of deity. They're ghosting you. They're not responding.
Yeah.
And you feel that all the acts of magic that you're doing are not really yielding any results. This is really interesting because it brings us almost to the other thing that we wanted to talk about, which was oath breaking. But one of the things that I think that you need to do when you're listening to somebody like this, it's to let them speak and reminding them, of the consciousness of the experience. When they were, talking about circle, talking about the things that you were actually experienced together or not, but it's bringing their consciousness to the belief. Because that's the question, do you still believe? They might say, no, I don't actually at this point.
They might, right?
Yeah, they might. But
you can fall out of the religion.
Yes, sometimes that's one of the things that can happen. Sometimes I wonder what happens to people that are oath breakers, people that really do things that are irreversible, right?
Yeah, like consciously aware.
That's right. That they are doing something. Yeah, that there's.
I think an innocent slip is forgivable. All right.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Or unintended. Yeah. Whoops. I should not have said that.
They will know. They will know.
A conscious, willful breaking of the oath.
Yeah, because there's always this question about what happened. What happens to an oath breaker? What happens if somebody actually breaks their oath? Is there anything that you see? I mean, I'm sure there are people who broke their oath.
Yeah.
And what's
I'm sure there are many, right? There are many.
There are many people probably that did.
There are willful oath breakers. And I think, elders who've published or whatnot have been accused of such things. But you're talking about like, can you see what has resulted from the oath breaking? I don't know if I have. I don't know if one would one know. If someone has oath broke, I don't know how to say that. I don't know the tense.
Break their oaths.
Exactly. I don't know the tense of that. I have no idea. And then how would you perceive the results? I would say that, this is going to probably get me in trouble, is that if you are a seeker and you are speaking to a coven leader and their life is in shambles, maybe they've broken their oath along the way, willfully and consciously, and that might be an indication that something is amiss.
I think that you might be onto something there, because there is no red light, green light, right?
No.
Whoops. Broke their oath.
No.
So there probably are, and we're speculating here, there probably are some indicatives of an oath breaker. And I totally believe that would be absolutely reasonable to think that somebody that has their life in shambles, probably that happened. Because, very few witches, if any, actually, that I know of, have their life in shambles.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to an initiate. We're talking about an initiate or somebody that is a priest or a priestess. To have their life in shambles. If they do, then something is wrong. Something is wrong. It might not have been. It might have been just their poor judgment on financial matters.
Exactly.
But,
Poor decision making.
Poor decision. But still, I mean, if nothing goes right, I think that there is something, to be said about that. It might be suspicious, but nobody knows what oath breaking becomes, after. And I think, to be truthful, to be honest with you, I think that this is different for everyone and not measurable.
Yeah.
You can't measure it in terms of, that's more intense because this person broke more. That person broke less.
Yeah.
Once you break, it's a break. But the effect, I think, it's very different. Very different. Some people just go away. They just go away. They just have a natural disinterest in the craft and then just go away. That's what I think. I think that some others will never set foot in a the craft will protect itself. One of the things that I don't want to say with all due respect because I'm already, but
you're already being disrespectful.
Right. Because, but I don't like that phrase, "May the God preserve the craft." And I really
hear it a lot. You do.
You hear this a lot.
Yeah.
May the gods preserve the craft. Why does the craft needs to be preserved? The craft doesn't need preservation. It's not a culinary, preserve to need, to be in a dark place, tight with no oxygen going. It's just, to me, it rings weak, meaning the craft is so weak that it needs the gods to preserve it. The gods don't preserve the craft. I don't think that they will. They have more things to do than preserving the craft. I think the craft is the works of humanity. Humanity needs to preserve. Preserve meaning continuing doing.
Continue.
Right? So not the gods, I don't think. The gods, I think that the gods have more things to think about than preserving the craft.
I agree with you. I think it's no, I'm not going to be insulting. I think I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. Because I know people that I really love who say these things. And that's fine. The way that they see it and the way that they interpret it, I just think of it differently. I'm more on your page.
Yeah.
And the craft, and the craft as we know it might not survive in 30 years or 100 years or 150 years. I'm not the first one to say this. The craft as a mystery religion or a mystery cult, like the mysteries will still survive. Christianity could fall off, or Judaism could fall off, or Islam could fall off. But the mystery, the sacrality of that will endure.
You're absolutely right, because I am reading a book called Mystery Cults in the Ancient World by Hugh Bowden. And he's actually a King's College professor in history of religions and things like that. So, and he talks about this. He talks about, so it's basically a book that is about it talks about the Elysian mysteries, the mysteries of the Keberoi, the sanctuaries of the ancient world, of Greece, Rome, the big, huge thing about Dionysus, of course, and, the great mother, Isis, Mithras as well, all of those things. But what he says is that, yes, any religion can end. The mysteries will always be.
Yeah. Right.
So
they will always be.
You can't destroy mysteries.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
so the gods don't have to, right? It'll continue regardless.
Yes,
in a
because
different form, but it'll
I think
continue.
it's the divine essence. It's the
Yeah.
mysteries are imbued in this divine essence that they will always be observed, either here on another planet or whatever it is that we are in. I think that will continue, and so it's something that will never die, and need no preserving, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, because it is, of course, we do not know what the Elysian mysteries were, really, because
No.
nobody actually kept record of it.
Nope.
So we don't really know. We know some things. We know about what it was around, and very, very vaguely things about it. But what we do know is that all of the secret societies, religions, whatever you want to call it, cults, etc., etc., they do have these almost strings of mystery that will connect with the truthfulness of their practitioners, and they will come.
Yeah.
And they will be revealed. So I think that is what we are looking at in our own practice, actually. And there's a hint on this, I think, in our liturgy. When I'll teach you things yet unknown. So it's actually some clues of, okay, so hold on, we will pour into you if you are open enough and honest enough and truthful enough, and we will reveal to you further.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think that is the greatest mystery about all of this. It's that there are mysteries yet to be revealed in these, religious observations, if you want to call it that, or the practice, or whatever it is, or the craft. But I think that that's what it is, and it will never cease to exist. So I really don't like that expression because of that. I understand that our people who have very dear people who actually, very dear friends that actually use this, may the gods preserve the craft. But I think they don't really need to.
Yeah.
They don't really need to. And it's a plea, it's a plea for the gods to preserve the craft. But really, it's really detaching us from that responsibility. It's relying on the gods to preserve the craft.
Yeah. Rather than us.
And us to continue to practice, because we don't really preserve it other than on practice. Going on and practice and continuing the practice of the craft is how we preserve it. We don't really actually, what really is true is that the mysteries that are imbued in the craft that we know today are very, very ancient. That's true, but and we do observe them. Maybe not the same way that they did in the Elysian mysteries, maybe not the same way as they did in other mysteries of Egypt, but they are the way that we have it today. So I'm still not thinking that they need to be preserved, because
right. The mysteries are eternal and, forever enduring.
Yeah. I think that they are imbued in humanity, you know what I mean?
Yes.
In our own
Plug in. Yeah, right. They are imbued, right? For those who want to become aware of them.
Yeah.
And then you plug into them. And I love this, the concept too of, like, mysteries that are yet unknown, right, to be revealed. And that is where evolution comes from.
Yes.
Right. In the sense of these things are revealed, can happen in moments in circle and during the experience.
Yes. And this is why it's called a mystery religion. And it's a very beautiful thing. But then again, I mean, if you are open to it, you need to be open to do these things and conscious of it. And, this brings me to another thing, which is very interesting that we talked about the other day, which was, why can't we remember everything that happens in a ritual?
I don't know why, but it is really incredible. And it does happen.
Yes, very often, actually.
Yep, it's very often where you remember sort of bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess you're I don't know, in between the worlds. You're in different states simultaneously, and not always you are mundane side is going to retain, right, that, I don't know, visceral information outside of the sacrality of the circle? Or is it I don't know. Is it to keep, things secret? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it could be that to keep things secret.
Exactly.
Let's just say that let's just make them not remember so that they can't say it.
They can never say, but no, but it does happen where you're like, secret names can say secret because you have no memory of them.
No. Sometimes you are. That's the secret. And the secret names is one of the things it's magical names, right?
Magical names.
One of the things that we should talk about in the future thing. We hinted a little bit when we talked about the soiree because there was a question about it.
About how to receive it.
And we said, you need to be initiated to know. Yeah. But, it's a very interesting thing when we go through the ritual and you don't remember. Well, you don't remember everything, every detail, never in a craft ritual. And I think that if you do remember every single detail, then you shouldn't be.
And you shouldn't. It wasn't an effective ritual.
Because you're not really in there. You're distracted or you're not conscious. So I think that there is two things here. I think there is we bring with us conscious and unconscious mind in the rituals. And the unconscious is basically our, we don't remember things in the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind is the piece of it that will get, that impression of the of the ritual and of the deeper meanings and all of that. So it's very interesting, that piece. The conscious mind will be, always there, but of course we have ways of altering the state of the consciousness. And this is the real, I think, in my opinion, it's the real meaning of Between the Worlds, because it's between the conscious and the unconscious. Yeah. And this is how we do things between the worlds of men and the realms of the mighty ones. And here are the two pieces of our own mind and our own consciousness that will... So when we don't remember, that means that piece of the ritual and whatever it was, it talked to the unconscious mind. That's why we don't remember. Yeah. Not to the conscious mind. You see, so, and that is good because that's where the unconscious mind is, where the transformation is done. I think that is where you are in the direct contact with your essence. So this is why I think that it's my opinion. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. But I just think that's one of the reasons I think that we don't remember is that. The other one is that it is really something very deep, that it's actually occupying your own spirit, that it's not possible for you to remember. And it's a good thing that you don't remember everything. Yeah. Because then that's the magic. That's how the magic works. I think that some people remember certain pieces, some people don't remember other pieces, and it's a very interesting way of looking at it. But I think that's why.
Yeah, because we definitely have, mechanisms and ritual protocol, but then we step into the ecstatic, right?
Yes.
And I think that is where the memory, where you don't remember everything, right? Is when you step into that ecstatic mode. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Where you are between the worlds of the unconscious and the conscious mind, okay. between the worlds of men and the gods. Uh-huh. All initiates should be thinking about these kinds of things.